Hi, I'd like to call to order the December 21st meeting of the Los Gatos Town Council. This is a good opportunity for you to turn off your phones or to put them on to vibrate. And if we could please have a roll call.
Councilmember Mike Westerman.
Here.
Councilmember Steve Rice.
Here.
Councilmember Barbara Spector.
Here.
Vice Mayor Joe Krasinski.
Here.
Mayor and Chair Diane McNutt.
Here. We have with us tonight, as we always do, a young member of our community who we've identified with the help of the schools as a future leader for Los Gatos. And tonight I will be joined in a moment down at the ceremonial podium by Ben Grassman from St. Mary's School. He's in 4th grade. And his teacher gave us a lot of information about Ben. So get ready for a lot of compliments, young man. According to his teacher, he is a role model for good sportsmanship, always willing to help others in the classroom or on the field. He is a natural leader, kind and thoughtful, a great listener, very responsible, very organized. He enjoys reading, especially books on mythology and fantasy. He volunteers for the Envision breakfast service. He participates in Little League, soccer, NJB basketball, flag football, golf, and triathlon. He likes animals, especially reptiles, and there I must disagree with you. And he has a great sense of humor, and we may have just heard his first campaign speech here. So, Ben, if you would join us up here, and the rest of us, we want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Applause for that excellent job. And Ben, wait, there's more. Thank you so much. We have a little gift for you from the town, and the council members that are standing would like to shake your hand. I have no confidence this microphone's going to stay where I put it, but we'll give it a try. We also have one special commendation this evening, and I would like to invite Dave Schaub to come forward. You may recognize this gentleman from the media coverage that he got with an extraordinary adventure that he did earlier this year on behalf of Ronald McDonald House. And I'd like to invite him to give us just a brief overview of what he did before I read the commendation.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, councilmen and women. Anyway, it's my pleasure to be here. Unfortunately, the person who got me here, Mary Ann, she couldn't make it tonight, Mary Ann Hamilton. But anyway, roughly what I did, I have a 1932 Ford Roadster. I belong to the Bay Area Roadster Club. I've lived here in Los Gatos for 50 years. And about a year and a half ago, I decided that I'd do a little venture around the United States. But being that I was a little short on time, I decided I'd make it 9 days. So anyway, it was kind of a bet amongst guys whether or not this was even feasible to do. But I did my homework, figured it out. That's all I had to do was 1,100 miles a day. So anyway, so I took off September 9th from Needles, California, and I drove to 49 states, ended up in Hyder, Alaska, doing a total of 9,856 miles. And anyway, without any breakdowns, and I ended up getting a penny a mile as a sponsorship from people, as well as I sold space on the car, kind of like they do for NASCAR. And so far, we've got $110,250 to Ronald McDonald House at Stanford. So anyway, that's my story. Anyway.
So let me read the commendation here that repeats some of the information that you just heard from him. He is a Los Gatos resident. We're so very proud. So the commendation says, whereas Dave Schaub, a Los Gatos High graduate of the class of '69, I don't know why they had to put that in, current Los Gatos resident and owner of Schaub's Meats, Fish, and Poultry in Palo Alto, has witnessed for nearly 20 years the important services provided by the Ronald McDonald House at Stanford Hospital for children undergoing treatment for serious illnesses, and that also serves their families. Whereas Dave wanted to support the Ronald McDonald House in some way and developed the idea to raise money by undertaking a road trip to all 49 contiguous states, did not make it to Hawaii, in 9 days in a 1932 Ford Roadster, and whereas he completed this trip in 8 days, 16 hours, and 48 minutes, driving over 9,856 miles, averaging 16 to 17 hours of driving a day, and obtaining a time-stamped receipt from a purchase in each state. And whereas Dave finished his charity drive on September 18th, 2009 in Hyder, Alaska, raising over $100,000 in donations and sponsorships for the Ronald McDonald House. And whereas Dave is currently raising additional funds through T-shirt and poster sales and is challenging other hot rodders to undertake similar ventures to raise money for deserving charities. Now, therefore, the Town Council of the Town of Los Gatos does hereby commend and congratulate Los Gatos resident Dave Schaub for his dedication and exemplary public service to the children and families served by the Ronald McDonald House. Thank you so much.
If any of you are interested, you can go to
Speaking to the microphone.
Okay. If any of you are interested, you can still go to www.49and9.com, and the story's all there, and we're still taking donations. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Korb, closed session report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, members of the public. Council did meet in closed session tonight regarding the town attorney appointment. No reportable actions were taken. I do, however, want to note item number 3 on the consent agenda tonight, which is council's appointment of Michael Martello as the interim town attorney effective on the 14th of January.
Thank you. If you are planning to speak tonight on any item on the agenda, this would be a good time to fill out a speaker card that looks like this. It's on the back of your chairs there, and turn it into the clerk's office, and just note which item you'd like to speak on. Council matters. Council, do we have any matters that you want to discuss with the public or with each other? Seeing none, manager matters?
Mayor, members of the council, several items before we end the calendar year. Last Thursday, the town hosted the senior holiday dance, and our library hosted a book signing for the Los Gatos-based book by Steve Sporleader up in these chambers. Second, Los Gatos is again participating in the Avoid the 13 drinking driving campaign, and we'll be having our local checkpoint done in combination with the city of Campbell on December 30th. And it's good that we have started that campaign. Our officers last Saturday night were quite busy dealing with several DUI cases that they had acted upon. And at the same time, our town was hit with at least 9 vehicular break-ins. And when that shift came back on Sunday night and read the report of the 9 vehicular break-ins that had occurred on Saturday while we were dealing with DUI cases, they proceeded with the stakeout. And I'm pleased to say we've apprehended 2 likely suspects, recovered stolen material in the vehicle, did a search today of a residence, and obtained more stolen items as well. So good job by our officers in following up on that case as we lead into the holiday season. Speaking of the holiday season, the town will again be closing from December 24th, Christmas Eve day, through Sunday, January 3rd. However, our library will be open all but the Christmas and New Year's Eves and the Christmas and New Year's Day. So the library services will be available. And as always, our police patrol will be available for emergency response at 911. And for non-emergency incidents, be it streets, streams, public safety, or in the parks, otherwise, we ask the residents to call 354-8600 as our non-emergency dispatch number. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce our Director of Parks and Public Works for the second Did You Know?
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Mayor and Council. For this installment of Did You Know, we would like to take the opportunity to make all of our residents and businesses aware of the town's sandbag distribution program. During the winter months, the town of Los Gatos can be subjected to large amounts of rainfall in relatively short periods of time, which can result in localized flooding. As such, residents and local businesses may find it necessary to protect their property from the associated runoff. The town provides sandbags specifically for this purpose. Residents can fill their own sandbags in the Balzer Field parking lot located on Miles Avenue, as shown in the accompanying map. We ask that individuals limit themselves to 10 bags. Additionally, for residents who live in the northwest areas of the town, sandbags can also be picked up at the county fire station located on Sunny Oaks Avenue in Campbell. For additional information, please visit us on the web at www.losgatosca.gov. Under Town Services, select Parks and Public Works. Additionally, we can be contacted by telephone at 399-5770. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Capurso. And Mr. Larson, are you concluded? And just to remind us all, the Did You Know segments are posted on the website and also as public service announcements on KCAT. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Good. Thank you so much. Next on the agenda are consent items. I will be asking council and public if they have any consent items they want to pull for discussion. Those will be heard and after the end of other business. I do want to point out 2 things. One, that there is an administrative correction to item 14, the minutes, and I myself am pulling agenda item 7. So do council have any other agenda items that they want to pull? Seeing none, I have a card from the public pulling items 8, 14, and 15. Are there any additional items from the consent that the public would like to have pulled? Seeing none, council, I'll look for a motion to approve the remaining items on consent.
Second.
Thank you. Mrs. Spector, did you want to say anything about item number 8?
Yes, I will be voting no on 8.
Okay. So we have,
It's pulled. It's pulled. Yeah.
what's pulled? I'm sorry. I didn't connect those 2 dots there. It's pulled. Never mind. We'll get to you later on that. So we have a motion and a second to approve all of the consent items with the exception of 7, 8, 14, and 15. All in favor?
Aye.
And it passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is verbal communication. This is an opportunity to speak on anything not on tonight's agenda for up to 3 minutes. And Citizen Ray, as always, you're up.
Yes. Wish I could say nice to see you all. It's Christmas, why shouldn't I? You know, when the cat's away, the mice do play. And for a community of 30,500 people, how many cats do we have? One. Me. So, at Christmas, I'm going to say nice to see you, even though I'm here. Make sure you don't play, okay? And you serve we the people, all right? First comment. Todd Caperso, our hero of the, let's do 2 months, okay? Todd Caperso just finished the installation of a sidewalk on Mitchell Avenue this past week. We now have a sidewalk for the 60 or 70 kids from Fisher School that have been forced for years to walk out in the street because there was no sidewalk. Unbelievable. But Caperso came through, and hooray for him. And we'll give Mr. Larson a little bit of that too, okay? We got a smile, that's good. Okay. Next. Dead trees. I reported 3 dead trees. Mr. Brzezinski took care of one. There's still 2 monsters left. One at Roberts and Fisher, big old oak, and big old Monterey pine out on Winchester. They're dead and they're going to fall sooner or later. So I don't know. I haven't heard a word from Mr. Caperso as to whether letters were sent. But they are a public nuisance if I ever saw one. Okay? You know, one of the things that is bothering me is all the talk from the planning department about the single-family homes in the North 40. And the presentation by the lady over there in red has been that there's about 1,500 new family homes, both affordable and condos, that is, should be going into the North 40 area. Do any of you realize how many car trips per day that translates into? The standard in planning is 10 car trips for every home.
Thank you,
That's
Mr. Davis.
15,000 cars plus the other 5,000 that have been
Is there
approved.
anyone else?
It's unbelievable.
Mr. Davis, your time is up. Please be seated. Is there anyone else who would like to speak under verbal communication this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings, starting with agenda item number 19. This is adoption of redevelopment agency 5-year implementation plan and affordable housing production plan for 2009 through 2014. And we'll begin with a staff report by Joel Paulson from the Planning Department.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Redevelopment Agency. The California Redevelopment Law requires that redevelopment agencies prepare and adopt 5-year implementation plans for their project areas. Seifel Consulting worked with staff to prepare the implementation plan. As you're probably aware, Seifel prepared the current implementation plan, and so their familiarity with the town was helpful. The principal goal of the implementation plan is to guide an agency in implementing its redevelopment program to help eliminate blighting influences. Additionally, the required affordable housing production plan provides a mechanism for a redevelopment agency to monitor its progress in meeting its affordable housing obligations under California redevelopment law, as well as the needs of the community. The proposed implementation plan is a guide incorporating the goals, objectives, and potential programs for the agency over a 5-year period, which in this case will end June 30th, 2014. The implementation plan is not cast in concrete, but is intended to serve as a planning tool to look forward over the next 5 years to contemplate potential activities. Additionally, the implementation plan doesn't approve any of the projects that you may see listed in there. The normal budgetary process and other approvals will require more detailed information, which will return to the council and/or agency, depending on the action. The proposed implementation plan, as I said, reflects potential activities from July 1st, 2009 to June 30th, 2014. Available funding and staff resources will determine the ability to fund a number of these projects. Staff will forward information to the agency detailing funding for potential capital projects and affordable housing opportunities as they become available. This will be an opportunity for the agency to establish more specific priorities based on those sets of potential projects. For several of the projects that are listed in the implementation plan, the monetary contributions from the RDA are not intended to fully fund those projects, and the town and staff will seek to leverage other available sources of funding for those. The implementation plan will be reviewed as required by redevelopment law in the next 2 to 3 years. It's a midterm review. And at that time, additional review will take place, and then any amendments necessary will be done. Additionally, if for any reason the town council and/or agency would like to revisit this item, there's also that opportunity. Staff recommends that the agency adopt the resolution approving the implementation plan for the Central Los Gatos redevelopment project as illustrated in the staff report, and staff is available if the agency has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. Council, do you have questions of staff? Seeing none, then we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. I have no cards. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and turn to council for a motion for adopting the attached resolution to the staff report.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Wasserman, did you want to say something?
No, I was going to make a motion.
Well, you're going to have to be quicker than that.
I raised my hand. My old-fashioned.
Sorry.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving right along to agenda item number 20. This is initiating the reorganization of the uninhabited territory known as Arnerick Road Number 2 in the town of Los Gatos. And this is to talk about scheduling this matter for a public hearing on February 1st when it will actually be decided. So I just wanted to clarify that that's what we are doing here this evening. We do have a desk item on this, and our presentation by staff will be made, I'll give her time to get back and be seated, by Jennifer Savage, a planner in our planning department. Ms. Savage.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. The proposed annexation consists of 7 properties identified by 10 parcel numbers and is comprised of approximately 63.7 acres. The annexation encompasses most of the remaining unincorporated land along the Arnerick, Wagner, and Hicks Road areas within the urban service area. Exhibits 7 and 8 included in the staff report did indicate a parcel to the northwest. I'm sorry, I don't have a red pointer. It's to the northwest that in the staff report it was indicated to be included in the annexation, but it is actually not included, which can be seen in the map displayed in the overhead. The annexation was reviewed by Town Council earlier this year in April and included 6 properties identified by 9 parcel numbers. Prior to the meeting, town staff met with LAFCO, who informed staff that the annexation would not create an island. During that hearing, council requested some clarification, which required additional communication between town staff and LAFCO. And during that subsequent communications, town staff learned that the proposed annexation would indeed create an island. 3 additional parcels located to the east of the annexation, as a result, were to be included to prevent the creation of an island, which is shown here with hatch marks. The annexation process was terminated in May to allow the map and the description to be revised. Mid-Peninsula owns 2 of the 3 parcels that were to be included in the annexation, which are highlighted in green on the overhead map. Mid-Peninsula expressed reservations regarding, about annexing into the town, and in the interest of maintaining a positive relationship with Mid-Pen, town staff worked with LAFCO and Mid-Pen to reach a resolution that would allow the annexation to proceed while being mindful of Mid-Pen's wishes. As originally proposed, the annexation reduced the total area of the county island, but divided the existing island into 2 islands. This prevented the council from making the required finding that the proposal does not create islands or areas in which it would be difficult to provide municipal services, but specifically in relating to the island part of the finding. The Mid-Pen properties do not require municipal services, nor would the annexation result in an inability to provide municipal services to this area. Therefore, the decision-making body can make the second part of the finding that the proposal does not create areas in which it would be difficult to provide municipal services. Additionally, Mid-Pen has requested an urban service boundary amendment. The Urban Service Boundary Amendment, or USA Amendment, requires the Town Council to adopt a resolution initiating an amendment, and the language is included in the resolution contained in the staff report. Once adopted, the resolution would be forwarded to LAFCO. Mid-Pen will bear the cost of the USA Amendment and provide any other required application materials. Amending the USA would undoubtedly remove the potential to create an island with the annexation. The amendment relies on the fact that Mid-Pen properties do not require municipal services, nor would they be required in the future. Already developed parcels or parcels with development potential would not qualify for the USA Amendment in order to remain in the county in this instance. The subject annexation is considered uninhabited because the annexation contains less than 12 registered voters. This means that the subject annexation is a non-100% annexation. In addition to this, staff is aware of at least 3 property owners who do not consent to the annexation. Therefore, it's a non-100% consent annexation, and a public hearing is required. On the overhead, it shows the first step, which is tonight, which is a public hearing to initiate the annexation. Excuse me. Thank you. The property owner of the affected territory must submit written statements of protest by the conclusion of the protest proceeding, which would be the next meeting. And that's within 30 days of that meeting, the town council shall determine the value of the written protests filed and not withdrawn. This determination of value may be made after the protest proceeding, but on February 1st, which is the proposed second meeting date. If the value of the protests are less than 50%, then town council shall order the annexation. If the value of the protest is more than 50%, is 50% or more, then the council shall abandon the annexation. As mentioned earlier, staff is aware of 3 property owners that do not consent to the subject annexation. They are shown in orange on the overhead map. The Mid-Peninsula parcels are still shown in green, and those properties that are in support of the annexation are shown in blue, the darker blue. This concludes staff presentation, and staff is available for any questions. Pardon me. There was also a written communication that was submitted to staff this afternoon, too late to prepare a desk item, but it is available should the council like to see it.
Thank you. I know I would like to see it, so if that could be distributed to the council members while they're gathering their thoughts on questions for staff. Council? No? Okay. We'll go ahead and open this to the public while that's being distributed. I do have some cards. Do I have any additional cards? No? Okay, so we have Carrie Perzo.
Hi. I just want to reiterate that we're real anxious to get this annexation through, as you know, or we wouldn't all be here. I also wanted to publicly give recognition to Jennifer and your staff for the work that they've done so far. This has been a little gnarly in terms of trying to get all the parties to sit down at the table and to understand what the concerns are and to try and work that out. And I think Jennifer and her colleagues have done a really good job of just bringing out what those issues and concerns are and trying to constructively come up with some creative ways to address everybody's concerns. So she's been a great representative of your staff, and just wanted to say thanks for that.
Thank you. Citizen Ray?
Yes, as a graduate fish and game biologist, I want to speak in support of the Mid-Peninsula open spaces.
Mr. Davis, we're going to need to do something unusual. If you could just pause there for a moment. We have an urgent question from a council member that needs to be answered right away.
Always happy to oblige.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about this. This is the first I've seen this. This item that just came regarding the property at 14180 Shannon Road, that's my cousin.
Goodbye.
I have no interest in the property. I don't, or anything like that, but I knew it wasn't in the proposed annexation. I didn't know if this would matter or not.
Well, the question for you, whoa.
Yeah, they're a little hot tonight.
Let me get on the floor. So the only question I could ask you is whether you feel that your relationship to Mr. Lincoln, who is the author of the communication, would in any way affect your objectivity in making the decision tonight. If you feel it does, or you have any concern that it may be perceived that it would, then I would suggest that you step down from this item. Otherwise, you're not legally required to recuse yourself.
It's not subject to what we're discussing tonight, so it won't have any impact on me from that perspective. I'm just more concerned about it from your perspective.
Well, this person, if I understand correctly, he's adjacent to the proposed area. He's not within the area.
Correct.
So he won't be directly affected by the decision that council makes. I don't see a concern. I don't quite understand the concern that is being raised by this. But if you feel it affects your objectivity in any way, then you should step down. If it doesn't, then I think you're free to participate.
Okay, and I'll state for the record, I don't believe it does affect my objectivity, and I won't step down, but I thought it was important to at least mention that it's a relative.
Well done.
That's adjacent to. Thank you, and I apologize for the odd procedure.
Thank you, Mr. Rice, for clarifying that, and thank you, Mr. Davis, for being patient. So now he'll start his 3 minutes on the timer.
Gee, I forgot. Don't be fooled. I am so ecstatic that the Mid-Peninsula Open Space District has decided to withdraw from any annexation into the city limits of the city of Los Gatos. I know what that would mean for an open space parcel of land in the district. It would mean, to begin with, you'd have our dirty duo, Josephine Brzezinski and Diane McClump, who are dying to take any piece of land within the city limits and put a pre or a post Proposition 13 development on it so they can prostitute the town for money in property taxes. That would be the future for open space land, okay? Also, as I said earlier tonight before I was cut off, there's 20,000 car trips per day heading our way if the staff and the dirty duo have their way. 20,000 car trips a day. Can you imagine any of that on open space land? I mean, and here we had the DeSantis matter. The dirty duo, again, voted for DeSantis. And the bulldozers raped, pillaged, and plundered the mountain. What's that got to do with open space? Don't allow these two, and anyone else that might come aboard, I hope not, don't allow these two to do their dirty deeds on this property. Thank you.
Oh, and thank you.
Happy to-
Michael
happy to
Kokinos
oblige.
would be next.
Well, thank you very much. Do you have a pointer? Where's it? Yeah. It was here a second ago. I know it's not. Oh, Jennifer's got it. Thanks. So it's the white forward button here? Great, thanks. Let me know when I can start. Okay. Good evening. My name is Mike Kokinos. I reside at 14075 Arner Ridge Road in Los Gatos. I'm one of the protest landowners. Thank you so very much for having me here this evening. Several months ago, I shared with council the findings from my legal team, headed by Lucy Lafremento over at Silicon Valley Law Group, who runs their land use practice. And in that PowerPoint presentation that I shared with the council, I protested the annexation proceedings based on three specific points. First, that the annexation as proposed created not one but two separate and distinct islands, so it was in direct opposition to the CKH land use law. Second, that additional properties had to be included into the annexation, Frankel Hirsch properties. And third, that it violated the current street annexation policies. As a result of my presentation, council requested that staff go back for additional clarification concerning the definition of islands and the impact of this potential annexation. In a similar fashion this evening, after consultation with my legal team, I will again challenge the proposed annexation on the basis that, yet again, the confusion surrounding the applicant's petition hides the fact that still another island has been created, and that even though the mid-space manipulation of the urban service boundary amendment is going to be taking place, it still is in direct legal violation of CKH. So why all the confusion on this? Why has town staff spent so much time confused about all this? Well, to begin with, the person who's driving this annexation process is masquerading as a civil or survey engineer. He has no license here, nothing driving accountability on his end, therefore driving lots of documents to the city for confusion and the burning of time. I'm going to go ahead and move forward and talk about the annexation. Again, I said unlicensed design consultation firm. The use of outside engineers. If you notice, all the maps are stamped by different people because he doesn't have a license. The staff currently assumes that amending the USA boundary would undoubtedly remove the potential of creation of an island. It doesn't. Interesting enough, if you look at your staff report on page 3, section D, it talks about two islands. The Mid-Penn USA boundary amendment only deals with one of those islands. Again, the boundaries that we're discussing, as I mentioned last time, as you see here in this presentation, you'll see the areas billed that create the annexation. The major island that we're of concern here is, again, this island here. That's the violation, not the area here, but the fact that this whole area cuts this area off. Again, the urban service area boundary adjustment is this area here.
I'm sorry, 3 minutes goes so fast. Let me see if council has any questions for you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Does council have any questions? Mr. Wasserman?
Yes, please, if you could, if the speaker could please go back through the mayor. If the speaker could please go back, I needed to see where your point was that the proposed annexation created an island. I see where the proposed annexation is there, and it seems to me there'd be a buffer zone between the proposed annexation and the area you're calling an island. So the proposed annexation is not directly adjacent to the area becoming an island.
So no, what it does is, Mr. Wasserman, this area here is currently all part of county. Okay. It's all open county. If you look at the GIS maps at the county, it shows it's all part of county. What the annexation proposal does, if you see as I build it, it cuts off this peninsula and therefore creates a giant area in the center that is the island. This is all county jurisdiction. It's not the town jurisdiction. So the island is formed because town surrounds this entire area. Earlier, if you go back, this area is all county. The annexation, proposed annexation, creates a giant island in the center, and that's why the proposal by staff is legally vulnerable, according to my team, because it creates the larger island here in the center.
Okay, and you don't, Madam Mayor, may I have a follow-up question?
Yes, May.
Thank you. So you don't consider the the current existing situation, when you remove all your color, you don't consider the pre-existing area to be an island?
No, in fact, if you look at the report from last time, staff didn't either. It was going to create an island.
Okay.
This is all county jurisdiction, sir, in this area right here.
I understand that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Council, any additional questions of the speaker? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have no other cards, but one is arriving. Yes,
Good evening. Good evening, Madam Chairman and members of the Council. Island in annexation, it's various opinion of what is island. Okay, island in the urban service area, USA. It's all over the cities in the United States and in California. You have unincorporated area, pockets within the city urban service area. That's what is that county, what Mr. Coquino showed. It's, I apologize, my name is Velmir Sulic from Mason Sulic Engineers. Sorry. So, in the Cortese Act says that cities should encourage cities to annex islands where they are within urban service area. Okay. On a previous presentation, he showed that how was the county going outside of the urban service area and shows other territories what is now under Mid-Penn. Okay. Mid-Penn is a process actually right now to get out of urban service area, so that completes this entirely area of town Los Gatos urban service area, so that island within urban service area becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. That's what Cortese Act wants to encourage cities. So the islands of the unincorporated area disappear from urban service area. On the comments of Mr. Coquino, I'm not here to argue. Why is a different stamp on application? Because our associates died, and our surveyor, different surveyor says a stamp, okay? So that's what it is, okay? So I do want you to approve this annexation because it's all legal and is cleared by the LAFCO and it's cleared by the county surveyor, and now it's up to you. Thank you so much.
I'll hold there a moment to see if there are any questions from council. And there are not. Thank you, sir. Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on agenda item number 20? Seeing none, we will go back to council for additional questions of staff or discussion or a motion. Mr. Wasserman?
Thank you. I have a question of staff through the mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm not quite sure, Jennifer or Mr. Korb or whom, the concept of creating another island. I'd like some sort of staff response if this has gone through LAFCO, if it's gone through whatever legal. I need to hear something from our staff.
It has been reviewed by the county surveyor. We've also had several meetings with LAFCO, and this process would not create, there's two parts of the finding, pardon me. When it specifically speaks to islands, there's a finding in the Cortese Knox Act that's required to be made that the area does not create islands or areas in which it's difficult to provide municipal services. So in this case, the way that the process works is, as we would be initiating the proposed annexation tonight, the Mid-Peninsula parcels would be in so much creating an island, but you would be able to make the second part of the finding that you would not be creating areas in which it would be difficult to provide municipal services. With the process of the urban service boundary amendment occurring, there'll be about a 2-month period where the Mid-Peninsula parcels will be considered an island, but also an area where it's not difficult to provide municipal services. And once the urban service boundary amendment is complete, there will no longer be that island there. As currently exists, there's one large county island because it's unincorporated land within the urban service boundary.
Thank you.
Additional questions of staff or comment? Oh, Mr. Korb, you have something to say?
I just want to add for the record, based on a comment made earlier by a speaker, it's my understanding that the Mid-Peninsula Open Space District did not object to coming into the town because we're the town, but rather because their property would thus be divided between 2 separate jurisdictions, and any permitting that they would be required to go through for any use of their facilities would be divided between 2 jurisdictions, and that would be problematic for them. They want to remain in one jurisdiction, so by getting out of the town's urban service area, they can remain ultimately within the county.
Thank you for that clarification. Council, questions, discussion, or a motion? Vice Mayor Brzezinski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I appreciate this is a complex issue, and it relies on our looking at what the intent as well as the language is. And I think there's no question that LAFCO's intent is that islands within jurisdictions, county islands within municipal jurisdictions, are reduced and eliminated as the ultimate goal. My assumption also would be that in this particular case, we're not increasing the island, we're actually decreasing the island that exists, and the intent would be, under LAFCO's interests, to continue to decrease that to 0, as we would have in any other part of our community where there are islands currently exist. So although there's a logic to the arguments in opposition, I think that the intent is well served by the application and the proposal in front of us. I think that there are legal issues that have been clearly addressed by the staff as regards the questions that we had before us previously, and this initiates the reorganization. This does not conclude the reorganization. There is sufficient time for the information that would contradict any final conclusion to be brought forward. So I will move to adopt the resolution initiating the reorganization of the uninhabited territory known as Arnrick Road, number 2, to the town of Los Gatos, and set the matter for a hearing in February, that is February 1, 2010, and directing the mailing, posting, and publishing of notices of that hearing.
Is there a second? Mr. Wasserman?
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion by council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And again, this will be coming back to us on February 1st for additional public input. Thank you.
Just to make it clear for the record, the resolution and the action of council, and I assume the motion and the seconder agrees, is to do 2 things. One is to initiate the proceedings with regard to this annexation, and also to initiate the amendment process to the urban service area to remove the Mid-Peninsula plot.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are now done with public hearings. We'll move on to other business, which tonight are just the pulled consent items. And we'll start with consent item number 7 that I pulled. And number 7 is the resolution granting an application to operate a restaurant with beer and wine service and outdoor seating on Winchester Boulevard at 14101 Winchester Boulevard. Excuse me, my question and concern on this council is regarding in the conditions of approval number 12, which is our first attempt to quantify the idea of community benefit in relationship to the alcohol policy. If you remember the discussion at the last meeting regarding that, I was quite hesitant about it and was curious how we were going to come up with any language that would describe a business owner's pledge to be supportive of community groups and nonprofits. And I believe that what has been drafted is way off the mark from what I was thinking. Basically, we are now requiring a business to put in $5,000 a year in kind or direct donations to local nonprofits. So what we are doing is adding a $5,000 additional business fee a year for the privilege of doing business in Los Gatos. And I don't think that's where we wanted to go. So that's why I pulled it, and I would be interested to hear what other folks have to say. Mr. Rice.
As the maker of the motion, I'll kind of second what you just said. That was not my intent in the motion. From our desk item this evening, I thought it was interesting that the application of Chin Chin was used as an example of a recent community benefit. And I was on the Planning Commission when that came through the commission. And as is mentioned in the desk item, providing the town with additional late-night restaurant options was voted on at that Planning Commission as being a community benefit. It is certainly not my intent to increase the costs of doing business in the town of Los Gatos for businesses beyond, what the normal costs of business are. So I would definitely like to change that paragraph 12. And I'll hear from the other council members before we decide how we're going to do that.
Okay, let's see if anyone else has anything to say. Vice Mayor Brzezinski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to agree with both the mayor and council member whose concern is for probably the issue of a specific dollar value given to what appeared from the testimony of the applicant to be a willingness and actually a commonly experienced practice on his part to contribute to community activities and organizations. And I thought that's what we heard, and I think that the intent is appropriate, and I too looked at some of the previous documents and some of the statements made previously. I'll use the Chin Chin resolution. This is on Village Lane. Evidence in the record demonstrates that the proposed modification to the CUP would encourage economic and social activity consistent with small town, small-scale atmosphere and image. Modifications of the CUP will have the community benefit of establishing a late-night fine dining opportunity in the town. So that's one. And the restaurant will be operated consistent with the membership in the Bay Area Green Business Program. And so in that case, the green business concept was offered as part of a two-part offering, but more consistently, I think in previous decisions, the acknowledgement was made that a restaurant is appropriate to use in the town, and that when a restaurant comes in that's going to be successful, a good neighbor, good community participant, that in and of itself has a benefit to the community. And so I would say that probably the issue for me is the framing of that particular item in conditions and the necessity of our reducing almost the draconian configuration of that, particularly the $5,000 nonprofit donation that would have to be valued minimally by somebody at $5,000 annually, and with some documentation showing the nature and name and contact information of the beneficiary and so forth. So at this point in time, I'm not willing to go ahead and adopt the resolution finally until we've somehow dealt with item 12 in the conditions.
Mr. Wasserman.
Thank you. I'll be brief. For the same reasons, I don't wish to adopt number 12 the way it's written either. I'm opposed to the idea of the annual amount. I do want to recognize the fact that the applicant volunteered to do community benefit, provide community benefit, as they said they did, I believe, in their 5 other locations. I believe this was number 6, if I recall correctly. So for my purposes, and I know that's not what we're doing at this moment, but for my purposes, something in there accepting what the applicant offered as far as being a contributor to our community, et cetera, something should be in there. But I have a problem with what looks to be the equivalent of about a $5,000 a year tax.
Mr. Rice?
Question, I guess, for staff, if I may, through the mayor. Is this something that we need to rewrite and then bring back again, or can we amend it as it is or this evening and then approve it?
You can amend it, or you can give direction to amend it and bring it back. But you can take a stab at, you can delete this section, rewrite this section, and approve it with the amended version tonight, or send us back with instructions to bring it back another day.
Mr. Larson, did you want to clarify something?
The town attorney said exactly what I was going to say regarding action tonight. Staff is also wondering if some modification to the alcoholic beverage policy may be appropriate, so we get rid of the redundant language where we use community benefit according to your policies in 2 different ways, potentially.
A different discussion at a future date. Mr. Rice, did you have, go ahead.
Well, I'll take a stab at this then, since I made the original motion, if you're ready for that.
Sure.
I'll move we approve the resolution replacing paragraph 12, community benefit, with the community benefit that this establishment will offer an additional or a new casual/family dining facility in a portion of town that is currently underserved by such facilities.
That doesn't all get over here, but that doesn't sound to me like a condition for a condition. It sounds more like the language in the resolution.
I was going to say that if that was a motion that the council was interested in acting on, then I would recommend that you just strike condition 12 as it is and renumber the remaining conditions. But again, that's up to you, and you still have to discuss.
That sounds wonderful to me, if I may.
Would you like to?
I would love to change that and strike number 12 and renumbers 13 through 19 up 1, and I'll let it go with that.
All right, let's see if we have a second for that. Oh, Mr. Wasserman?
Thank you. I have a question for the motion maker.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to, I have a hard time saying that it's a family, whatever business restaurant they're putting in as a community. I mean, I don't feel I would approve it unless it were not of benefit to our community. I know you can get into zoning and all the rest. What I would like to do, if there's some way, and I'd like to get it done tonight with what you're trying to do, if there's some way to put in there, even if we take what you said, Mr. Rice, and add to it acknowledging the business owner's willingness to participate in the community. Something. I'm just trying to get that on the record, and I don't know, not obligated, I'm just trying to put in there an acknowledgement of what they've offered.
And Mr. Wasserman, we need to, I'll say the same thing. I think there's a difference between the conditions which go with the land, with the CUP, and what you're talking about for a particular business. So each of these conditions has to be met and checked off by whoever owns that business,
right,
and however they operate it in the future. So it makes it a little difficult there, I think, in the conditions to do that kind of thing, but
Okay.
perhaps, and I'm not
No,
even
that's-
looking at the attorney, that we could change the wording earlier in the resolution to acknowledge that. Yes, sir.
Actually, if I may, the resolution, as was pointed out to me by the manager, at E1 does, E1-3, I believe, does list several findings, and one is that the applicant has demonstrated a clear benefit to the community. This finding is based on evidence presented in the record, basically. It doesn't specify what the benefit is. However, what that does do is take the reader back to the record of the proceeding and the benefits that were described by the applicant and in their letters of justification and in their testimony, and that is what would be referred to later if a question ever arose regarding what the community benefit was with regard to this particular project.
Thank you. And I'm good with that, Madam Mayor. Right there. I just wanted somewhere in the record, and thank you, Mr. Manager. That references what I was talking to. I think it's just important to document what was said rather than mandate, like I said, some annual fee. That's which I'm opposed to. So I'm removing what I said and seconding Councilmember Rice's motion.
Okay, so if I have this right, we have a motion to approve a resolution with the change of eliminating condition number 12 and renumbering 13 through 19, and we have a second. Is that correct from this end of the dais?
Correct.
Comment or question from this end, Vice Mayor Brzezinski.
And if I could just make note, I pulled the conditions of approval for 440 North Santa Cruz. That was the application for beer and wine at the Aldo's Deli that we reviewed and approved on December 15. And in the recommended conditions, there were 20 conditions, none of which specified a community benefit as such. So as the attorney pointed out, in the resolution itself, there's language that indicates that this is a benefit to the community, and I think the benefit is a new restaurant coming into an underutilized area beneficial to that neighborhood, and there's no need for us to specify the community benefit as such.
Do you want to speak?
If the mayor will acknowledge
Yes.
me, yes. All
Please,
right. Yeah,
Mrs.
I will
Spector.
not be supporting this motion for the reasons I delineated when we heard this before. Our alcohol policy specifically provides that in order to have the privilege of extended hours, the applicant must show or demonstrate a clear benefit to the community. The applicant in this case was very direct in stating what his benefit would be, which was support of our nonprofit and our youth sports. To have a conditional use permit go forward without specifying the community benefit makes the provision of a community benefit meaningless. It means that there is no requirement that the applicant actually provide it, and there's no requirement for the subsequent businesses, if there be subsequent businesses, to know or to do what the community benefit is, since the conditional use permit runs with the land.
Vice Mayor Brzezinski?
And that is one opinion. I appreciate it, and I do not want to in any way, shape, or form disallow that interpretation, but I do think that the alternative that's being discussed tonight is appropriate, and it does validate what is the intention and the language that says that the benefit to the community is that we're adding a new restaurant that will be family serving and will be a contributor to the community. And in some ways, that has sufficed in the past and will continue to suffice, and it does fulfill the language of and the intent of the alcohol policy. Now, perhaps at a certain point, we should look at the alcohol policy and see whether or not the language of the alcohol policy needs to be revisited, because I think there's been some confusion. If you look at the policy related to community benefit, that was the desk item presented us by the attorney today, it makes it really clear that and this is on the first page in the third paragraph, a specific community benefit offering cannot be compelled by the town. It must be proposed by the applicant in addition to standard conditions of approval and any required mitigation measures for the project. Mitigation measures such as fees, dedications, or easements required by the town do not qualify as a community benefit. And it's intended to offset increase of 5 peak trips or more, or a project that's considered infill. And, I think that if we look at the language, the key is this, that when we have those projects that do those things, traffic impacts and infill, then we have applied consistently community benefit by making some accommodations, particularly for those impacts that cannot be mitigated. And, for example, major traffic impacts so designated by a traffic study indicate that we have to mitigate with some improvements in the signalization program of a nearby intersection, for example. But that is in the language of community benefit, and I think that we need to, when we get back to this particular alcohol policy again, should we want to review it for clarification, that we'll have a chance to fully vet that particular language.
Any additional comments from council before we take the vote on the motion on the table? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? No. Motion passes 4-1, and I also agree with the original suggestion by Mr. Larson and the Vice Mayor's comments that given the confusion in our track record of not requiring these things in the past, but yet the language is in there, that we probably do need to look at that language and put it on our work list for 2010.
And Director Rooney reminded me, as Vice Mayor Przynski mentioned, we do have an outstanding referral from council that the council made as part of the approval of the wine retail and tasting facility on North Santa Cruz to revisit that portion of the alcohol policy. Just for workload management, we'd like to fold this into that rather than a separate work project.
Okay,
very good.
Okay, we have 3 other consent items that were pulled, all by Mr. Davis. So, Mr. Davis, if you want to come up, we'll take them one at a time. And while you're approaching the microphone, I will let the public know that the first one that he pulled was item number 8, which is a resolution granting an appeal and reversing a decision of the Planning Commission denying a request to demolish an existing single-family home, construct a new residence with reduced setbacks and an above-grade pool, and the address is 132 Teresita Way property. So, are you ready?
Thank you.
Up to 3 minutes.
Well, I don't have to go very far into this resolution for my complaint. Unfortunately, this proposed resolution by Mr. Korb is identical to the one he proposed a month ago on 26 Alpine, okay? When he and he alone said, let's grant the appeal. Unbelievable. But, we're all human, we all make mistakes. And he's leaving, and we got to wish him well. But here it is again, same damn thing. He says, you voted to grant an appeal, okay? Or deny the appeal, whatever it was, okay? And the minutes are right here under number 14. And the minutes show clearly there was no motion, there was no vote, there's no nothing to grant an appeal. It's only a figment of Mr. Korb's imagination. It's unbelievable. But he's only human. And, what the heck? We're going to wish him well. But you can't approve it. That is because it's ridiculous. The whole idea was you, the town council, wanted it to go back to the Planning Commission for the Planning Commission treatment with the ideas as proposed by Mr. Larson. And it was perfect, okay? And that's what it should accomplish. And it should not have the extra burden of granting an appeal which is fictitious. Unbelievable. But that's all right. Thank you.
Are you done on that item?
I'm done on that.
Can you just stay there for a moment while we take care of business on that one?
Sure.
Thank you. Staff have anything they want to say? If not, we'll look for a motion. Mr. Brzezinski?
I move to approve the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-1. Back to the pulled consent items. Mr. Davis, your next one is item number 14, which are the minutes of the December 7th, 2009 meeting.
Yes.
And I wanted to just also make a correction of my own that I was not the one who gave the information on the date when the alcohol policy was established. That was staff, and I actually think it was not 2004. It was 2001. But, Mr. Larson?
Yes, and that was corrected in the desk item tonight. But staff did indeed say in the minutes 2004, not Mayor McNutt.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Yes, indeed. Page 23 of number 14, okay. Open public comments. It states here in the minutes, the draft minutes, that I commended Council Member Steve Rice for requesting a reconsideration of the Panorama Way matter, okay, and Union Avenue matter. That is not what I said. I said I thought that reconsiderations were totally appropriate depending upon the facts, okay? And they're legal under the general law statutes of the state of California. So, well, what I did say about Mr. Rice was that even though he made the motion to reconsider, I said with his personal integrity and his stand on the issue on Panorama Way, that we look forward to his continuing support of we the people and all the appropriate public documents like the town code that supported your original vote and your original position. So that's what I said, and that's what I mean. We are looking forward to Mr. Rice continuing his efforts to support the community of Los Gatos in an honest and lawful and with plenty of personal integrity. That's what I said.
You done? Yep. Any additional comments on item number 14 or a motion? Mr. Wasserman?
Motion to approve item number 14 with the
Second.
corrections that have been mentioned.
Any additional comment?
Second with that as well.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, Mr. Davis.
I am impressed.
Your last one is item number 15. This is a resolution approving fiscal year 2008-9 Los Gatos Redevelopment Agency annual report.
Yes, I just want to make a quick comment. You know my position on the library, okay? But I wanted the public record to show exactly how I feel about it in terms of putting you folks and everybody else on notice as to what is the proper situation is, okay? Now this resolution in item 3, it states that the C.G. Eulenberg, the audit agency, finds everything appropriate, okay? And particularly with the agency's compliance with laws. That's what it says. I beg to differ. They evidently missed the document, the charter of the RDA of Los Gatos, which stipulates that there will be no funding from the RDA funds for any new construction of public buildings, period, end of story. So the $25 million library, if it goes forward, is unlawful at its core. And Mr. Eulenberg needs to take a look at that. If he doesn't, the onus is on him, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Motion on item number 15.
Move to approve.
Mrs. Spector? Oh,
I'll second.
any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 And that passes unanimously. And we are, yes, sir?
Ms. Mayor, just for the record, I would like to read the key paragraph from our auditor's report. It's paragraph 3 of the independent auditor's report. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the governmental activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information to the Town of Los Gatos Redevelopment Agency. As I learned way back in accounting, that's the key line you look for in every audit, and we've consistently received it for redevelopment in the town.
Thank you for that clarification. We are now done with Mr. Wasserman
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may ask a question of Mr. Korb?
regarding what?
Thank you.
We are now complete with our agenda. This is on what, on?
My question is whether or not Mr. Korb will be appearing before the town council again so that we can thank him for his service.
And the answer is yes, he will be here on January 11th.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be out of town on the 11th. Hopefully, I'll be back in time for the meeting. I will come to the meeting as soon as I'm available.
Okay, thank you.
And if not, we will requisition him back on the next meeting after that. So we are now adjourned until 2010. Have a restful and peaceful holiday season because it's going to be an interesting and exciting year next year. Thank you.